This was, the big moment that CNN has been playing over and over again, and all of the resistance people have been playing over and over again. Let's take a look.
A patient advocate at a cancer center here in Scranton. Joseph?
Thank you, Joseph.
Welcome home, Mr. Biden.
They call you Joseph or Joe?
Joe is fine, just like you.
No, I just wondered. When they called, my mother called me Joseph. I knew I was in trouble. That's the only reason I asked.
No, Joe is fine. But, Mr. President, welcome home. And right now I do work in a cancer center in the area. I make under $15 an hour.
Oh.
During these COVID times, unfortunately, I had to open a credit card with 25% interest just to cover my groceries. I'm barely making ends meet. Received no hazard pay, no raise. I'm struggling not only mentally, but financially. I look up to you, and as a middle-class healthcare worker, do you have any plans to stand up for us healthcare workers?
Absolutely. And now
We'll get to Joe Biden's answer in 1 second. But can I just point out, for the record, the guy says, I make under $15 an hour. Oh, that's terrible. Terrible. I've done nothing in my Senate or vice presidential career to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Oh, but it's so terrible. The cameras are on. The other thing he said, that Joe Biden threw up his hands. Oh, good God. Of course, what the man said is shameful. That he's working in a cancer center and making that. But Joe Biden, again, this is the really branding and marketing campaign for the last 20 years that the media has propped up, that Joe Biden is this lunch bucket middle-class guy, when his record is the complete opposite. And literally nothing he has done as a senator, as a vice president, has been geared towards helping that man make that $15 an hour or have better conditions. But he's good at selling it. He's very, very good at selling it.
the idea you're not making a minimum of $15 an hour is just wrong. Wrong. No one should have to work 2 jobs to be able to get out of poverty. You're busting your neck, and what you're doing is you're saving people's lives.
Exactly.
You're helping them, and you're risking your own in this moment of COVID. You know better than I do that what happens is a pre-existing condition. In fact, what's happening here is a lot of people who have cancer, who are taking various drugs, and they, in fact, are more susceptible to catching COVID and dying than anyone else. So, first of all, thank you. Number 2, the reason I'm running is because, look, the interesting thing for me is I view I really do view this campaign as a campaign between Scranton and Park Avenue. And I really mean it because, the way we were raised up here in this area, awful lot of hard-working people busted their neck. All they asked for is a shot, just a shot. All that Trump could see from Park Avenue is Wall Street. All he thinks about is the stock market and telling we're going to do all right. Everybody owns stock. How many of you all own stock in Scranton? In my neighborhood in Scranton, not a whole lot of people own stock. No. And so we have to make sure that healthcare workers are paid and paid a decent wage. And $15 an hour isn't enough for a healthcare worker. And so, again, I won't take the time now, but Joe, if I can get your address, definitely. Let me get you. Go to joebiden.com, and you'll see what I talk about needing to be done with regard to healthcare workers. And by the way, mental health. You know as well as I do, and the nurse who was just up here knows. We're in desperate need. There are more people who are at risk and worried today than any time in modern times, and especially the youngest generation.
If you watch the whole town hall, I didn't watch the whole town hall, I watched enough to know, he essentially, none of it was policy oriented. All the policy was go to my website. And if you go to his website, it's not very specific either on policy. So it's again, it's a lot of theatrics, vagueness, whatever. Couple things. Number 1, hate to say it, no one should, $15 minimum wage, is not enough for healthcare workers, and frankly, it's not that great for any worker that works a full-time job. When you look at inflation dating back 2 decades, the minimum wage should be closer to $23 to $25 an hour. So I respect that this guy's a healthcare worker. I respect that he's been helping with coronavirus and cancer patients. Of course, nothing wrong with his question or anything like that. But Joe Biden is not offering anything specific to get that man to $15 an hour. Nothing. And frankly, Joe Biden says, I'm going to be able to work with Republicans and Democrats. Well, the Republicans aren't going for $15 minimum wage, and there's a lot of Democrats that don't want $15 minimum wage. You think Joe Biden's priority when he's president is going to be fighting for a $15 minimum wage? Yeah, show me the evidence of that. So that's number one. Number two, ironically, it's probably somebody on Park Avenue or at one of these Madison Avenue in New York advertising agencies that wrote up that line, I view this election as Scranton versus Park Avenue. Trust me, that was not improvised. That was a line he was fed. Nothing wrong with that. Politicians are fed lines by consultants and others all the time. I gotta tell you something, and of course, all the disclaimers, Trump's terrible, Trump is attached at the hip to Wall Street. The fact is, Trump has been basically fixated on the stock market. He thinks the stock market means the economy is wonderful. Of course, if the stock market's roaring, it typically means the rest of us are, excuse my French, swear jar. But what I find so interesting about this, and of course, it was pathetic. Anderson Cooper might as well have been drooling the whole time. There was not one follow-up. At least George Stephanopoulos, or as I like to say, Stephanopoulos, challenged Trump on a few things. But when Joe Biden has the audacity to say, this is the election between Scranton and Park Avenue, as in, because he's from Scranton, he's somehow scruffy and he's a street fighter for the working class, and he takes a shower after work like one of those people that works with their hands, and he's not like one of those bougie Park Avenue people. This is an election. Basically that phrasing is, this is an election between the working man and woman, the proletariat, and the oppressor, the Wall Street vultures. And I'm on the side of the working man, even though I recently told my donors, corporate America has to change its ways. It's not going to require legislation. I'm not proposing any. We've got to think about how we deal people back in. It's too easy. It's just too easy, folks. That's recently, he said, at a fundraiser. Then you had this that came out from the Washington Post recently. The Democratic nominee, Biden, and his aides are now compounding the confusion. While Biden publicly calls out Wall Street excesses and promises to rein them in, Biden staffers privately are reassuring industry leaders that he won't focus on the issue in office. The issue meaning Wall Street regulation and reining in the global banking industry. As one investment banker described Biden's calls to financiers, they basically said, listen, this is just an exercise to keep the Warren people happy. Don't read too much into it. Oh, but Jordan, stop it. Stop being critical. You're helping Trump. No, as I tell you, I can't turn it on and off. You can't just be a seasonal journalist. You can't say, well, we got to get rid of Trump, so let's just ignore that Biden's totally full of shit. No. And by the way, to be clear, I hope not, but it's possible in the next few days we're going to hit the horrible milestone of 200,000 deaths in America in coronavirus. I think that's underreported. I think it's much higher than that, frankly. So Biden might very well win. Even a corporate Republican pretending to be a working class hero, he might very well win. It is hard. If you are the president presiding over 200,000 deaths, it's pretty hard to win re-election. But as Michael Moore is going to show you, because I'm going to show Michael Moore in a bit, Trump's not out of this. And I think part of the reason Trump's not out of this is Joe Biden is literally gaslighting America, aided by the corporate media. They have concocted this image of some scrappy, lunch bucket union guy, working man guy who, in reality, excuse my French, boys and girls, has been sucking the of Wall Street for the last 30 years. Anat doesn't like that.
No!
My fiance. He's been doing sexual favors for Wall Street for the last 40 years. I mean, that's the truth. That's the truth. You can't handle the truth. So, it's just mind-boggling. And then that tweet goes around and it gets retweeted and it's all over the place. Oh, the resistance, wine moms love it. Scranton versus Park Avenue. As Joe Biden, remember when Joe Biden said to millennials, give me a break. I have no empathy. Give me a break. Joe Biden has done more fundraisers in New York City, some on Park Avenue, by the way, than God knows any other candidate. Anat does like to rein me in sometimes. It's okay. I need to be reined in quite often. It is absurd. Absurd what this man has gotten away with. That the media lets this stand with zero pushback about, he used to be called the senator from MBNA, the bank in Delaware, that he was writing legislation for. He was their biggest recipient of their money. He was essentially, I mean, you think Obama not pushing any Wall Street bankers to jail? Not that Biden decided that. You think Joe Biden was fighting Obama to punish some Wall Street bankers that brought down the global economy? I think not. But again, this is all part of the problem with having a media system in this country that has been hijacked by corporations. There is no pushback. It's all theater. If Democratic Party operatives and Republican Party operatives, consultants, PR people, if they can concoct an image that can sell, then the media is not going to do anything to pop that bubble. Not at all. They'll just elevate it. I mean, if Joe Biden wasn't running against Donald Trump, I think he'd be wiped out right now. Because, and frankly, if Bernie Sanders would have went for the jugular the many times he had the opportunity to, we might be having a much different conversation here. But he didn't. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.